I'm 23 now, and this happened about 5 years ago when I was 18. I switched everyone's names for safety, but the story itself is exactly how I remember it. It was one of those perfect summer days where the air stayed warm even after sunset. My friend Ryan, his girlfriend Mia, and I had decided to spend the day at the beach before driving out toward a forest camping area nearby. The previous few nights had been clear, and we wanted to watch the stars away from the city lights. The day itself was great. We swam, joked around, burned hot dogs over a small fire, and stayed up way too late talking about random things. By the time the sky turned black, the stars were brighter than I'd ever seen them. The forest around us was quiet except for insects and the occasional wind through the trees. Then the noises started. At first it was small things, twigs snapping somewhere deeper in the woods, leaves crunching. Once, it sounded like something slowly circling the campsite just beyond where the firelight reached. Every single sound made us jump because we were 18 and our imaginations were working overtime. Ryan laughed it off and said it was probably a raccoon or deer. Still, none of the noises sounded quite right. At one point, Mia whispered, "Why does it sound like footsteps?" Nobody answered her. Eventually, we convinced ourselves we were being paranoid. Ryan and Mia went into their tent together, and I laid down in my sleeping bag near the dying fire. I remember staring up at the trees and feeling this weird pressure in my chest, like someone was watching us. I don't know what woke me up, but when I checked my phone, it was exactly 3:27 a.m. The fire was almost completely out. The forest was dead silent. No insects, no wind, nothing. That's what scared me most. Then I heard it. Slow footsteps somewhere behind me. Not animal movement. Actual footsteps. Like someone deliberately stepping on sticks. I froze. The sound stopped the second I sat up. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the trees. Nothing was there at first, but a few seconds later I noticed something pale between two trees, maybe 30 yards away. It looked almost like a person standing perfectly still. I shouted for Ryan. The moment my voice broke the silence, whatever it was moved behind a tree unnaturally fast. Not running, more like it slid out of sight. Ryan came out of the tent angry and half asleep until another twig snapped much closer this time. Mia came out right after him, terrified. None of us spoke for a few seconds because we all heard breathing somewhere in the dark. Not ours. Heavy breathing. Ryan immediately started throwing our stuff into the car while I packed whatever I could grab. We didn't even fully put the fire out. We just wanted to leave. As we were getting into the car, Mia suddenly asked, "Did one of you put those there?" There were muddy footprints all around the back of the tent. Bare footprints. The weirdest part was they stopped a few feet from the trees, like whoever made them had simply vanished into the darkness. We left in a hurry and didn't stop driving until we reached a gas station almost 40 minutes away. None of us really talked about it afterward. Ryan tried to say it was probably just some stranger messing with us, but even he didn't sound convinced. To this day, I still wake up sometimes remembering how silent that forest became at 3:27 in the morning. I'm 31 now, and this happened back in 2015 when I was 20 years old. I changed everyone's names for safety reasons, but the story itself is exactly how I remember it. It was late October, and 5 of us decided to drive out to an abandoned mining town a few hours outside the city. The group was me, Tyler, his girlfriend Jenna, and our friends Marcus and Elise. People online always talked about how strange the area was at night, but we mostly went because we were bored and wanted somewhere creepy to explore before Halloween. The town was basically dead. Half-collapsed buildings, rusted signs, broken windows, and dirt roads that looked untouched for years. The only sound out there was the wind moving through old buildings. At first, it was fun. We explored an old gas station, took stupid photos, and joked around trying to scare each other. As the sun went down, though, the whole place started feeling different. The silence became heavy, almost unnatural. Even Tyler stopped making jokes after a while. We decided to stay the night near one of the abandoned buildings instead of driving back in the dark. Marcus had brought lanterns and folding chairs, so we sat outside talking for hours under the cold desert sky. That's when Elise asked something weird. "Have you guys been hearing whistling?" Nobody answered her right away because we all had. It was faint, somewhere far between the buildings. A slow whistle that sounded almost human but slightly off somehow. It would stop for a few minutes, then start again from a different direction. Tyler tried convincing us it was just the wind moving through broken pipes or windows, but even he sounded unsure. Around 1 a.m., everyone started settling down to sleep. Tyler and Jenna stayed in the truck while the rest of us used sleeping bags near the lanterns outside. I remember feeling uneasy the entire time, like we weren't alone out there. I don't know what woke me up, but when I checked my phone, it was 3:42 a.m. The lanterns had gone out. The entire town was pitch black. Then I heard footsteps walking slowly across gravel nearby. At first, I thought one of my friends was awake, but when my eyes adjusted, I realized everyone was still asleep. The footsteps kept circling us, not rushing, just walking around us slowly. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the sound. For a second, I caught someone standing between two abandoned buildings, maybe 50 feet away. Tall, completely still. I shouted, thinking maybe it was some random person messing with us. The figure immediately moved behind the building. Not ran. Moved. Too fast. That's when Jenna suddenly screamed from inside the truck. We all jumped up at once. Tyler threw the truck door open while Jenna kept repeating. Someone was tapping on the glass. Not knocking. Tapping. Like fingernails against the window. Before anyone could say anything else, the whistling started again. Except this time it sounded close. Extremely close. Right behind us. Marcus turned his flashlight toward the sound, and for half a second we saw what looked like a person standing near the old gas station entrance. Then the flashlight flickered and died. That was enough for everyone. We packed everything in complete panic, throwing bags and chairs into the truck without caring what got left behind. As we were pulling away, Tyler slammed on the brakes for a second because someone was standing in the middle of the road ahead. At least, we thought someone was. The headlights hit it for barely a moment before it stepped off into the darkness beside the road. None of us spoke the entire drive home. A few days later, Marcus admitted something he hadn't told us that night. While we were setting up earlier that evening, he found fresh footprints in the dirt behind one of the buildings. Bare footprints. And they only went toward the town. Not away from it, but I guess we will never be for sure who or what was out there. I'm 23 now, and this happened last winter when me and 3 of my friends rented a cabin in the mountains for a weekend trip. The group was me, Dylan, Eric, and Mason, all around 22 years old. We found the cabin online for super cheap, which honestly should have been the first red flag. It was deep in the woods about 2 hours from the nearest town, surrounded by nothing but snow and trees. The owner said it was quiet and private, which sounded great at the time. When we finally got there, though, the place felt strange immediately. The cabin itself was old, with faded wood walls and a metal roof covered in snow. There were no other cabins nearby, no lights anywhere in the distance, and barely any phone signal. Once it got dark, the woods around us looked completely black. At first, we didn't care. We spent the evening making food, playing cards, and messing around while snow hit the windows outside. The fireplace kept cracking loudly every few minutes, and the whole place had that creepy but fun vibe you get during winter trips. Around midnight, Eric suddenly stopped talking and looked toward the ceiling. "Do you guys hear that?" At first, I thought it was wind, but then we all heard it. A loud thump somewhere above us. A few seconds later came another one. Then a slow, dragging noise moved across the roof. It sounded heavy, not like branches falling or snow sliding off. It sounded like something was actually up there moving around. Mason laughed and said it was probably an animal, but even he sounded nervous saying it. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside to check. Me and Dylan followed him while Eric stayed by the door. The cold outside was brutal. Snow was falling hard enough that we could barely see past the trees. Mason shined the flashlight across the roofline and around the cabin, but there was nothing there. No animal, no tracks, nothing. So eventually we went back inside and tried ignoring it. A couple hours later, Dylan and Eric went upstairs to sleep while me and Mason stayed downstairs watching videos. Sometime around 2:30 in the morning, the power suddenly shut off. Everything went completely black. The TV died. The lights went out. Even the heater stopped humming. The only sound left was the wind outside. Then came 3 loud knocks against the wall beside the living room window. Not the door, the wall. I remember me and Mason just staring at each other without saying anything. Before either of us could move, we heard another sound from above us. A long scraping noise dragged slowly across the roof. Then, another heavy thud. The ceiling creaked hard enough that dust fell down from the wood beams. At that point, Dylan and Eric came running downstairs asking what was happening. Nobody really answered because the noises kept moving overhead. Slow, heavy, back and forth across the roof. Eric looked outside through the window with his phone flashlight and suddenly went pale. There were footprints outside beneath the window. Bare footprints. In the snow. I remember all of us just standing there staring because the prints came from the trees and stopped directly outside the cabin. There were no footprints leading away. Dylan finally got the backup generator working, and the second the lights came back on, every sound stopped instantly. No scraping, no thuds, nothing. None of us slept after that. We stayed awake in the living room until sunrise. The next morning we packed our stuff and got out of there as fast as possible. Right before we left, Mason walked around the side of the cabin and called us over. Carved into the wood beside one of the windows were 4 long scratch marks that definitely hadn't been there the night before. We never figured out what happened out there, and none of us ever wanted to go back.